One of the things that's on my mind right now is just competitions in general and the challenge of being a competitive program in a sport that is judged. We went down substantially, like really, really embarrassingly in points. There's way more people who don't know how to do cheerleading who might want to learn it than there are people who are elite with tucks and layouts and fulls and double fulls. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Cheer Biz Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Cotton, and today we are going to be diving into what is on my mind right now at the end of January. We're 1 month into 2025, and what are the things that I'm focusing on as a coach and as a gym owner as we move forward into the rest of the year. Now, before we get into the episode, I wanted you to make sure that you head on over to Cheer Gym Owners on Facebook and you have joined that group. And you have also joined All-Star Cheer Coaches and Owners on Facebook as well. If you're a coach and an owner or an owner, making sure you're in all of those groups and getting all of that great information. If you're an owner who's interested in the Academy, go on over to nextgenowners.com to learn more about how you can join the Academy and we can help you take your business to the next level. So if you're in the position that I am, where you're thinking about all of these things, but you're not sure of the right steps to take, we have coaches who are standing by ready to help you in your gym, help you learn exactly what it is you need to be doing, help you get back more of your time, hire more amazing staff, bring in more fantastic families and kids, and overall grow your gyms. And then I have a last shameless plug. This is the first thing that's actually on my mind, is that my book is finally out. It is finally available for purchase on Amazon and Audible. So if you are a gym owner or someone who just wants to listen to me more or read my book, please check it out. It would mean the world to me if you would pick it up and read it and leave a review and hopefully get that information out to more and more people. It is a book on pricing in the cheer gym. And so there is some math to it. There's also some things about how to build value and deliver more for your customers and the things that you can be doing as a gym owner there as well. So I hope you check it out and I hope you enjoy it. Now, if you can't tell, my voice is probably a little bit deeper. I'm a little bit under the weather. It's that time of year. It's competition season. We just got back from a long competition weekend at a Grand Nationals. I'm a little tired. The cheer hangover plus sickness combine is not my favorite at the moment, but here we are. So the things that are on my mind at the end of the first month of 2025 are a lot. One, I'm super excited about my book to be out. Two, I'm really, really pumped for all of the clients that I'm working with and the growth that they're starting to see and the bounce back that I think we're seeing with a lot of enrollment within their gyms. I'm equally as excited with the amount of buzz and excitement around the things that are going on in my gym in terms of new class registrations and people coming in. We've had a really, really amazing month of January, which I think is a direct result of the marketing and focus I've put on growing that program, growing our recreational programming and our kids who are enrolled in classes. And it has been absolutely fantastic this last month. We've had one of our highest enrollment months of our history, really, when it came to just recreational programming. So I'm super excited about that and excited to see that changing. One of the things that's on my mind right now is just competitions in general and the challenge of being a competitive program in a sport that is judged. And that challenge is, how do you manage as an owner, as a coach, the challenges of navigating when you have not a great weekend? And I've done podcasts on this before, and whether that be a not great weekend because your team actually doesn't perform super well or a not great weekend because the results aren't what you're expecting. And I think there's two different parts to that. And I got to experience both of them this weekend. Woohoo. Super fun for me. So my Worlds team did not do well. They had a really rough weekend when it came to what they were capable of doing. Now, have they done worse full outs? Yeah, absolutely. Both days they had stunt issues that caused them to lose points. On day two, that stunt issue happened to be one of their elite skills that comes right before a level appropriate skill. So we lost both skills with our most groups, which meant that we were missing the required amount of level appropriate skills to score our base 4.5, which means we went down substantially, like really, really embarrassingly in points. And it was because that one skill not hitting negatively impacted our scores significantly. Man, what a gut punch. Plus, we didn't get our max participation driver. So it was just like, it was brutal. And it really sucked. There were also some choices made by athletes to not throw skills and just some things that, like, from a coaching perspective, are like, okay, there's clearly some mentality things I need to be working on. There's some conditioning things we need to be working on because, man, in the warm-up room, they were smacking everything. Like, I'm talking rewinds with that satisfying, like, whack sound when they hit the base's hands because they just smack and freeze. Like, that was how our stunts were in warm-ups. They were phenomenal. So clearly there's that disconnect as we're getting out onto the competition floor. And so I'm really thinking about that, but I'm also thinking about, how do I navigate this moment in time to get the kids to still believe in themselves when so far they haven't done super great on the competition floor. Now, it's only their second competition, but we actually have a long break before our next one. So I have a month and a week to get them mentally ready to go out and dominate the way they're capable of it. And I also have a group of parents that I have to convince. When I say that, I don't mean that they don't believe, but I have to, continue to convince that investing the time and energy is going to show results and get them on board with the steps that we need to take to get to where we want to go. One of the things that's on my mind is just generally honesty. I've talked about this before, how I go over scores after competitions. I actually haven't had time to do my super in detail scoring review today because I've been driving back and I'm recording this podcast and I had a meeting and a couple other things on the docket. So I wasn't able to get that done. I'm still going to go live and I'm still going to chat with the parents about it, but I'm not going to have as detailed of a breakdown for them. But I'm just going to be really honest on where we fell short and why we scored the way that we did. And I think that being honest with those things and showing people this is my clear path and my clear plan is really, really important. People want to know that you as a leader are thinking of what the next steps are. As much as we may believe, and I know I certainly do, that people expect us to be perfect and that people are, judging us for our failures. And while they might be a little bit, I am nearly positive that none of the parents are more hard on me than me. And I am definitely thinking about the things that I've messed up far more than they are. And if I can give them a very clear plan and path forward of these are the things that we're going to correct to be better, then I think that that will continue to get the buy-in from the people who know and trust us and know that ultimately we have their athletes' best interests at heart. Another thing I kind of took away from this weekend that I will voice to my parents, and I was super honored to hear, was I had one of the staff members from the event come up and say how much they appreciated our gym's vibe and the way our coaches talk to the kids. And that's exactly like, as a owner, those are the things that I want to hear, is the way we conduct ourselves and the fact that we do really, truly care for our kids. That yes, our goal is to go out and win competitively, but at the end of the day, we understand that each one of these kids is an individual human being, and it's our job to build them up into the greatest version of themselves they can. And if we do that with all 22 or 30 or 15 of them, if they all are the best version of themselves, then that team will be amazing. So we do that, individually, one kiddo at a time. And to see that or hear that be seen was really fantastic. My last kind of transitional note in terms of something that's on my mind is the challenge of the judge sport when the results don't go the way that you think they maybe should. In full honesty, my level 4 team, we did not win this weekend. First time for them this season. And they were really on a trend of we're going to go undefeated. But we had the opportunity to compete against a D1 medium senior team this weekend. And this D1 senior medium team is very good. I absolutely nothing but respect for this program. The kids were kind. There was good sportsmanship and everything. I have nothing negative to say about them as people at all. The coaches were great. The athletes were great. They did a great routine both days. I think we both did really good routines both days. Looking at it, apples to apples, I thought we did better on day 2 than they did when it came to the execution side. I thought we executed a little bit better on a couple of things that I thought would maybe eke us out. And when we got our scores back, our scores actually went down a little bit from day 1. And I thought our day 2 performance was better. That was one of those moments where I was like, okay, well, we didn't win. Because if we went down today and we were a 10th behind yesterday and we had a touchdown and a bobble in raw score, we were a 10th behind. If we were a 10th behind in raw score with those issues and they hit zero today, even with some of the sync issues that I saw in things, I think we probably did not take them. That's a different pill to swallow because they did their job. Like with my Worlds team, I could say, hey, look, guys, like you dropped this stunt. That math is math. Like that's not 4 stunts hitting the same skill at the same time. And they're not in the air. So like, that's how the math works. With this, it was like, hey, you guys did everything I asked you to do. Yeah, we could have been a little bit cleaner. We definitely didn't get our perfect basket toss score. We didn't get our perfect jump score. And those are 2 things we can do because we have done it. So we didn't do those. So that negatively impacted our overall score. But it is a situation where I had to just kind of say, hey, look, it doesn't always work in our favor. And the thing that I've stuck with all weekend and that I continue to stick with as a coach is we control our controllables. We control the things that we can control on the mat. And that team, I mean, they had an athlete who sprained their ankle on Tuesday night. And we had to put in a new athlete on Thursday, and they still went out and had barely an issue on day 1 and hit a 0 on day 2 and scored phenomenally. So like, I have nothing but pride for that group of athletes. And if their goal is to be the best in the country in the D2 medium senior 4 division, then it's going to be a game of tenths. The other team, who is the reigning summit champion, Titanium Force Black Smoke, who I'm good friends with their owner. She's a wonderful human being, and their coach, great team. They're a dominant force. So if we want to go and try and like go toe to toe with that team, we're going to have to be undeniable. We can't give away any tenths. We can't even give away a 1/10 of a tenth if we want to be competitive for that. And so that was the lesson learned coming out of the weekend. So although it was disappointing, I actually think it was a hugely valuable situation. So I'm always looking for, at this point in the season, ways to pivot and ways to take lessons learned from painful situations. And it doesn't take away from the frustration or the disappointment, but you've got to take away those moments of what is it that I can learn from this? So ultimately, anytime I get a score that I don't like, I say, okay, I don't like this score. Now I got to figure out why did they think that? And then I've got to either look at what is it about my choreography, or what is it about my training regime, or what is it that we need to be changing and pivoting so that is not happening again. I think that just keeps the onus on the coaches, right? Extreme ownership, knowing it's on us. And then it also gives the kids clear direction because you're giving them actionable steps of like, these are the things that we're going to do better to avoid this circumstance in the future. So that's what's on my mind competitively. Now, from a business perspective, what's really on my mind, aside from increasing my class enrollment, is gearing up for next competitive season. Now, if you've listened to the podcast for a while, you know where I'm going with this. February is when you should be releasing your All-Star packet. You should be putting that information out sometime in February to get people interested in your program. We're currently finishing our All-Star packet. We will have it done probably this month, and we'll be releasing it mid-February. We like to release our packet with enough time to do a tiered registration option where if you register early in the early registration, you get the biggest savings. And if you register late/on time, you're paying the highest rate. This helps us forecast for the next season. This helps us gain interest. This helps us know how much staffing we might need to have. This helps us kind of forecast levels and what we think we're going to be able to host. It helps us with budgeting. It helps us with all of those other things. Now, if you're an owner, one of the most common things I hear is, well, how do you budget without knowing how many kids you're going to have in the program? There's a couple things. Number one, you can start registration and you can start releasing a packet without having your firm budget set. It's okay to give people a ballpark. And if you're going to give people a ballpark, always err on the higher end. So if you've never been $5,500 a year in tuition and assessments, it's never been more than $5,500 for you, then say, it's at max going to be $6,000 for the season. And then, last year was less than that. So we're still working on the final numbers, but it's not going to be more than that amount, right? You can put that kind of information out. So there's all sorts of ways that you can release information without getting yourself too far off of the beaten path of like where you need to be in terms of finances. And if you're needing help on how to calculate what your tuition should be, I would highly suggest you pick up my book because I do have an entire chapter that is dedicated to building the correct pricing for your class registration, for your classes, and for your all-star teams. And if you follow that formula, you should be set up for success. And maybe you follow it and you go, man, I got it right the first time, or maybe you find that there's improvements that you need to make, but make sure that you set your tuition correctly. Now, that's something you should be able to release when you release your packet, because those numbers shouldn't be changing. You should know what your rent is going to be next year. You should know what payroll you're willing to pay for a competitive team. You should know what percentage of overhead you would like for each team to cover. If you do it that way, and then you set it off of a minimum number of athletes, then you can actually calculate your tuition correctly. And if you have more than that minimum number, then it just gives you more wiggle room and a little bit more profit margin and more ability to maybe bring on an additional coach. So like our pricing actually has, like when we, not our pricing for our customers, but when we look at our number of teams, we know this many athletes only warrants one head coach. This many athletes warrants 2 head coaches. This many athletes warrants 2 head coaches and an assistant coach. So we know kind of where those thresholds are of what we can pay for while still maintaining the correct profit margins, because we've done that math. So ultimately, I'm really focused on growing my All-Star program and building that for the next season. Now, when I talk about All-Star program, I'm talking about my novice, my prep, my elite, and potentially even my premier programming that I'm looking at doing next year, which is a step above what would be like standard elite. It's more travel, more practice expectations, and things like that. So you've got to kind of spend that time right now. Invest the time now, sit down as a team, sit down with your all-star director if you have one, or your team coaches, figure out what you want the requirements to be next season, and then put together your packet. Now, my last little thing I want to tell you is, if you're putting together your all-star packet, I've said this before, I'm going to say it till I'm blue in the face, your all-star packet is not a rules and guidelines packet. It is a sales packet. Your goal is to get people to want to do competitive cheerleading, ideally with you. Putting a whole bunch of rules in your packet is not the way to do it. First off, they're probably not going to read it. Secondarily, if they read it, it's going to deter a lot of people. Much better to sell them on it, and then after they're in love with it, give them, hey, also, these are the rules and guidelines. Now, am I saying pull the wool over people's eyes? No, I'm not. I am saying be realistic with what you tell them are the expectations in the initial sales packet. You can tell them after they register, hey, by the way, these are all of our expectations. Just make sure you know that. And if they're like, oh, well, we don't want to travel that much, then you hopefully have another program like a prep team that's like, great, no problem. We have our prep program that doesn't travel at all. So you can downsell them to that other program that fits their lifestyle and their needs better. Think through those things early on. Make sure you have a plan for it. Make sure you know what are the stair steps to get people into your highest tier programming, because not everyone needs it. And the more options you have, the more variety that you have within competitive teams, the more likely it is that you're going to have larger numbers. And it's much, much easier to fill those prep and novice and performance rec style teams than it is to fill your upper level high tier elites. It's just there's way more people. There's way more people who don't know how to do cheerleading who might want to learn it than there are people who are elite with tucks and layouts and fulls and double fulls. Those people are generally in the sport and take time to train into it. So that is the biggest thing on my mind right now, is getting ready for next competitive season, because although we're literally only on our 3rd competition of the season, 2nd one for my world's team, we are actually towards the tail end. The season will be over in 4 months. So in no time, we will be into tryout season. And for me, we'll be into our new building, which is also why it's so important for me and a big focus for me to be working on next season, because I obviously have a new rent and a new overhead and a new building to pay for. So that is certainly something that we are very focused on right now, adding new programming, adding more members. So when we move, it just makes that move even easier of a transition as we move into a higher rent facility. So those are my focuses right now. That is what I'm focused on in 2025. And I've said this before and I'll say it again, but the future looks bright. The cheer industry is coming back. It is vibrant. There are great things going on. There are lots of people who are looking to get their kids involved in a team sport where they're making connections and they're having fun. It's not all about the winning. Yes, being competitive is great, and I certainly encourage you to do it. And if you ever need help with that kind of stuff, reach out. I love competitive cheerleading. It's something that I do all the time, but it's not the be all end all. And ultimately, if you can give people both, if you can give people a competitive environment with an environment where their kids are nurtured and loved and cared for, that's where you find the perfect mix, where people don't ever want to leave, where you have a length of engagement with kids joining you when they're 6 years old and then graduating out at 18 and they never take any time off. Those are the kind of clients that you want. Those are the kind of investments you want to make into kids' lives. That is really what makes this industry so amazing and so much cooler than most of the other kind of sports out there. And I'm being totally shameless in saying that, but that's my personal opinion and I can have it. So that's what's on my mind in January of 2025 at the end of the first month of the new year. I'm super excited, even though I came off of a disappointing weekend. I'm super excited about the new year. I'm excited the direction that All Star Cheer is going. I'm excited to see gyms growing. I'm excited to see my clients improving and growing. All of that stuff just makes me more and more excited. So keep your head up. If you need help, please reach out. We have resources. If you need help competitively, reach out to me. I have resources with my company, Dream Camps. I can help you out. Okay. We've got a lot of really great stuff that we can help you with, and NextGen can help you as a business so much. I know it. I believe in it. It's what I do day in and day out. I am here for you. Last shameless plug, please pick up the book. It is called Charge What You're Worth, the Cheer Pricing Handbook by Dan Cotton. I didn't say that earlier, and I probably should have. Anyways, thank you for listening. Share it with someone who would get something out of it. And with that, we will catch you on the next episode.